You, the people, the Mwananchi, civic education, as we held leaders to account. We've hosted captains of industry and so much more, even as we also involved you, the Mwananchi, from wherever you came from. We all not only held the sessions here in studio, the Kenya's capital, Nairobi, we also traversed various counties as well. This is not a goodbye, of course. It is a wonderful breakup, and we shall be telling you and bringing you up to speed with what has been making headlines, especially in matters and issues that concern the people. My name is George Maringa. As always, good evening and welcome to the program. Tonight we've got a rather different program, as we shall be showing you in a little while. But for now, Linda and Victor will be taking a short break. When we come back in just about half an hour or so, we shall be bringing you that special edition of the People's Court, the last for this year, right?
I know, right?
Absolutely. Indeed, as we wrap up the year. But first, the top stories for tonight. Tonight, Busia Senator Okiya Omtata now says his life is in danger over President William Ruto's remarks on those opposed to his policies.
He issued a death threat against me and other people who have gone to court and successfully challenged his basically nonsensical so-called housing fund.
Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's allies denounced DP Rigathi Gachagua for neglecting Mount Kenya development projects, maintaining that Uhuru is still the region's kingpin.
Huyo naibu wa rais unasema sisi tunamjua tu kwa kitu moja, ni mtu ya mchele na nyama. Anajitetea kivyake.
Gachagua's allies hit back.
We are not in an election mood, and we are telling them to hold on their horses. We are waiting for this election. We complete our job. We are given a mandate by the Kenyan people.
Plus, Azimio Brigade calls out government over remarks that seemingly criticized Rwanda's governance style, as Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen says he said nothing wrong. We thank you so much for choosing TV47 to inform you. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen tonight is Catherine Simaloy. We invite your feedback on X, formerly Twitter, at TV47 News, at Linda_Alela, at Muyakane, or at George Maringa_. Use the hashtag People's Court. The full program is coming to you in a short while. Let's get this show on the road, even as we also I welcome those watching us on terrestrial platforms, or that is all across these terrestrial platforms, as well as on YouTube, as well as X. We are streaming. 22047 is our SMS line. Please begin with your name, where you're watching us from, as well as your feedback, even tonight, as we ask you what is your highlight for the year, and of course, perhaps your lowest moment. Tonight, President William Ruto is on the spot yet again for remarks he made in Kisii on Saturday against those challenging his government agenda, especially in the courts. Busia Senator Okiya Omtata now says he fears for his life for being among those who have gone to court to block some of the president's flagship projects. Omtata, however, did not find it easy recording a statement to police, as Paul Kirobi now explains in this report.
Mnajua nilipatiwa panga pale, nilipatiwa sword kubwa hivi. Kwani mnafikiri hiyo sword ni ya kukata mboga? Si ni ya kufyeka wakora hawa? Ndawafyeka kabisa.
President William Ruto's statement on Saturday while he was in Kisii County continues sending mixed reactions. This time, Busia Senator Okiya Omtata saying he fears for his life. He accuses the president of failing to obey the court and by pushing punitive laws that affects common Mwananchi.
When the president was in Mosocho the other day, he issued a death threat to a group of people, including myself.
Police officers in Nyanchwa Police Station in Kisii turned away Busia Senator Okiya Omtata from filing death threat claims against the head of state. Omtata was sent away from Nyanchwa Police after another botched attempt to file another report at Mosocho Police Station in Kitutu Chache South. He now wants the president be investigated by the DCI.
To ensure that this country is governed by law, and anything that is done outside the law, including any law that is unlawful, is quashed and has no effect. So we shall continue having our faith in the judiciary, perfect or imperfect as it is, because it's the only forum for a civil engagement and a civil resolution of disputes. We have had enough share of bloodshed in this country, and we don't want any more bloodshed.
Yesterday, the Law Society of Kenya termed Ruto's statement as reckless and aggressive, an indication that it could have a very harmful impact to those opposing Ruto's administration. The Busia lawmaker is now looking forward to go straight to the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome.
But it should never be said that William Ruto was allowed to mismanage this country the way he set out to mismanage it, and was never challenged.
The Busia senator says the main reason that ignited Ruto's decision is attributed by his stand on the housing levy fund. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Thank you, Paul Kirobi, for that. Retailer Majid Al-Futiam of Hypermarkets Limited, which operates as Carrefour, has been ordered to part with 1.1 billion Kenya shillings in fines by the competition watchdog over supply abuse. The order by the Competition Authority of Kenya, that is CAK, follows months-long investigations into the retailer's supplier dealings following complaints forwarded by two manufacturers, that is Woodlands Company Limited and Pwani Oil Company Products Limited. Here now is Emery Kisewa with more.
That's our role as a competition authority, to ensure that everybody, all businesses out there, are playing within those rules.
In the complaint filed last year by honey processing company Woodlands Limited, the Carrefour supermarket chain is accused of discounting suppliers' invoices and the requirement for rebates, which are passed on to consumers as discount offers, and thereby resulting in losses for the suppliers. The CAK says the retailer has employed the discounts and rebates to grow its market share since venturing into the Kenyan market in 2016, which has been done at the expense of suppliers. And for the abuse of power, Carrefour, which operated 20 branches as of July 2023, was slapped with a fine of 554 million shillings plus over 900,000 in refunds. According to the Competition Authority of Kenya, the harsh penalty was due to the fact that the supermarket is a repeat offender.
And as you correctly mentioned, Carrefour has also been penalized in other jurisdictions, in Korea and also in their home country of France. And they have been penalized amounts which are considerable in terms of the foreign currency. So these are matters that the party seems to be, the undertaking seems not to desist from the orders of the authority, and therefore these are repeat cases.
Pwani Oil Products Limited Company also filed a complaint against the retailer in August last year, complaining over, among other things, dubious rebates, illegal fines, and intimidation contrary to Section 224 of the Competition Authority Act. And for that, Carrefour has been fined over 554 million plus over 15.4 million in refunds and rebates.
None of the businesses out there will think that they can infringe upon the Competition Act, because an effective market actually benefits all of us. It benefits all businesses.
The CAK has directed the supermarket to amend all its supply contracts and expunge clauses that facilitate abuse of buyer power, including but not limited to application of listing fees, collection of rebates, and unilateral delisting of suppliers.
Subsequent to investigations, both at preliminary analysis level and again at secondary analysis level, with due consideration not only to the relationship between the two parties, but also with regard to the state and the nature of the market where these parties.
The authority says that several other companies are on its radar for exhibiting unfair market practices that could cripple the manufacturing sector if not checked. The record 1 billion shillings fine is the largest ever in the country. Kisewa Emory, TV47.
Thank you, Kesawa, for that. Days after Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua led a food distribution drive for flood victims in Garissa, a section of the displaced lot are now complaining that they have not yet received food items. The IDPs lament food distribution was not done to some places, and the targeted people, residents, are now crying for help, and they want the government to expand its hand so as to help people suffering in those areas, more especially Ziwani areas. The national government has this month begun dropping relief food to villages cut off by floods in the northern part of Kenya areas of Tana River County, which is worst hit by the disaster. Early this month, President William Ruto had dispatched KDF choppers, lorries and other security agencies' transport systems to dispatch the food to the affected areas.
Juzi deputy president alikuja uwanjani huu akaja na chakula. Lori za chakula zisizopungua 30 zilikuwa zimepaki hapa. Tukitarajia kwamba hiyo chakula ingelikuwa ni yetu, tumeletewa sisi kwa sababu ya yale maafa ya maji ambayo ya maji mafuriko yaliyotupata. Lakini la ajabu mpaka sasa hivi hatujui hicho chakula kiko wapi. Hakuna mtu amepata, kina mama hawakupata, vijana hawakupata, wazee kadhalika. Hiyo chakula imeenda hivyo tukila.
Mimi ndio mmoja alikuwa ninaimba. Nilikuwa nafurahia kama leo mimi nitapata mattress, nitapata hema, nitalala mahali mvua haitaninyeshea, lakini tulibaki kuona magari na yakaenda hivyo. Mpaka saa hii chakula kama hiyo sisi hatukupata. Watu kutoka Ziwani hatukupata hiyo chakula. Wale wasione zile picha alipiga nazo ni watu seze na ilichanganywa kabila. Imewekwa pale Msomali, ikawekwa Mkabila, ikawekwa Malakote, ikaambiwa inatakana kupigiwa picha tu ioneshwe, alafu chakula itagawanywa kila kijiji. Lakini saa hii
wamekuja wakasema tutaletewa, ngojeni, kapewa watu 5 hapa. Mattress pia zimepatiwa watu 5. Hizo mattress ni watu 5 wamepata, ambao watu tofauti, si kabila moja wala si Waziwani, ni kila kambi imechukulia watu tofauti wakapewa mattress 5. Wale wengine tukafurahi, tena tulikuwa na furaha, tumeona tumeshiba sababu lori ni nyingi. Hatujui labda huyo Gachagua labda amerudi na hiyo chakula yake, hatujui. Kwa sababu malori, tumeona malori tukafurahi, tukacheza, yeye mwenyewe ameona tuna dance. Tumecheza kama watu hawakutoka kwa shida, tukasahau furaha zaidi na watoto wetu. Kufurahi, magari yameenda, wamesema tutaletea chakula. Chakula kama hiyo hatukuiona mpaka hadi wa leo. Tukienda huku wanasema muko huku.
Now, tonight, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's allies in the Mount Kenya region lashed out at Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for neglecting the region, citing stalled projects started by Kenyatta. This as Gachagua's allies allayed fears on the stalled projects, saying they will resume once budget shortfalls are addressed. Beresk Apollo Kamau now reports the divisions over stalled projects have rekindled the kingpin rivalry rivalry politics amid a looming return of the former president's presence in the region.
Mount Kenya region development projects started by former President Uhuru Kenyatta that have since stalled due to lack of funds have threatened to rekindle the region's leadership rivalry after Kenyatta's allies in his Jubilee party accused Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for neglecting the region while funds were diverted under his watch.
Huyo naibu wa rais unasema sisi tunamjua tu kwa kitu moja, ni mtu ya mchele na nyama. Anajitetea kivyake. Na ni wale kitambo walikuwa wanauza community mzima. Project zimeenda akiwa. Za maji zimeenda akiwa. Za barabara zimeenda akiwa.
I sit in budget committee under the leadership of Dede Nyoro. We normally oversee 3.6 trillion budget of this republic. And I can tell you for sure there is no development money that has been deducted from the budget. And in any case, if we are there, we will rise to support or probably to say, no, you cannot be able to deduct this money for this and this.
Among the contested projects is a 165-kilometer Mau Mau Link Road that links central Kenya 4 counties of Murang'a, Kiambu, Nyeri and Nyandarua. Under the last supplementary budget, allocation for the road was slashed from 280 million shillings to 175 million shillings to complete the road in the 4.5 billion shillings project started by the Jubilee administration.
If there is a big lie that has been given in the last 1 year, that it should actually be put in the Guinness Book of World Record, that's the biggest lie of the year, is being told that the people of this region are shareholders in this government. People of this region cannot be shareholders in this government, and the money that was allocated to their projects by the previous administration has been taken away and redirected to other projects elsewhere, as if they are children of a lesser god and they do not deserve those projects.
Uhuru's allies have also criticized elected MPs and cabinet secretaries from the region for keeping quiet on state of affairs, saying the former president will soon give the region political direction once Jubilee party leadership wrangles, now before court, are resolved.
Kingpin sio kiti ya uchaguzi, sio kiti ya kuteuliwa. You earn it. Na ile heshima ambayo watu watakuheshimu. You earn it kwa ile mambo ambayo umetendea watu wako. You earn it kwa ile respect ambayo watu wako watakupea. So, we respect President Uhuru Kenyatta as a good leader.
We only have one leader in the Mount Kenya region, and that one leader is His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, who is the senior most politician in our republic. And I think all leaders agree, especially all the elected leaders, we all agree.
The Mount Kenya region also split on the alleged resurgence of the outlawed Mungiki sect, with Kenyatta's allies lashing out at Gachagua for demonizing the region's youth and his silence on insecurity in Lamu. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo, for that. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition has now expressed its concern on the relationship between Kenya and the East African community countries following alleged remarks against them from the Kenya Kwanza government officials, as well as tax policies imposed, which culminated to absenteeism of all EAC heads of state during the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations in Nairobi. Opposition leader Raila Odinga says since the country gained independence, it has never lost contact with the EAC countries, but President Ruto's government may have already destroyed it. This comes as after Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen said Kenya, unlike Rwanda, was a democracy with legal processes. Mike Kagwango reports.
President William Ruto's government may yet again lock horns with East African community members following recent utterances by senior government officials. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen in a recent interview said Kenya, unlike Rwanda, was a democracy with legal process, a statement that sparked sharp reactions against the opposition and other diplomatic officials in the country. Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei downplayed the criticism, calling Rwanda a key brotherly nation, and President Kagame's bold leadership was admired both at home and abroad. In a statement sent to newsrooms this afternoon, Azimio la Umoja Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga condemned the controversial remarks made by Murkomen, terming them unfortunate. Odinga further accused the CS of using intemperate and undiplomatic language against Rwanda. Odinga raised concerns that none of Kenya's neighboring EAC countries were represented at the level of president, vice president or prime minister at the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations here in Nairobi, as would have been expected in such a significant occasion.
Each of the countries have very positive competition. I can tell you for sure, East Africa community will be better and stronger.
CS Murkomen, however, confirmed his remarks, maintaining there was a big difference between Kenya and Rwanda in terms of decision-making.
When I said last night, for example, that our friends in the neighboring country in Rwanda, they make their decisions quick because their governance structure allows their president and the executive to make decisions. Here at home, we have had to handle a tender that should have taken 6 months for 2 years.
His remarks comes hours after President William Ruto said Kenya's diplomatic relations with its neighbors was perfect. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has now asked newly appointed envoys to ensure they are prioritizing Kenya's export market for maximum economic growth. Speaking during a meeting with the envoys at his current home, Gachagua has urged them to ensure they are expanding trade opportunities, increasing direct investment, seeking bilateral labor agreements for more jobs for Kenyans abroad, adding that their performance will be evaluated on the economic gains to the country.
While addressing the newly appointed envoys at his official current residence, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has urged them to prioritize expansion of trade opportunities for the country's economic growth.
We want to re-engineer the whole diplomatic space, the whole diplomatic architecture. We want to re-engineer it to focus more on commercial diplomacy as opposed to the traditional way of diplomacy.
He has further added that his office is ready to unlock investment partnership opportunities in collaboration with relevant agencies.
Therefore, request you to really take time to think through what are the opportunities available in the country you are going to serve for the Kenyan people.
His sentiments have been echoed by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who praised the country, saying it is a country of interest globally.
We can also see very clearly that Kenya and the Horn of Africa is gaining some extraordinary attention globally.
Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives Simon Chelugui also added that farmers are looking forward to better prices for produce, hence a need for the envoys to explore lucrative markets abroad.
All Europe has recognized our country as a source of materials to their countries. And therefore, my brothers and sisters, you have a singular opportunity. The foundation has been laid.
Tourism CS Alfred Mutua, who is also present, has pledged to work with them in order to ensure Kenya is at the top in the tourism sector.
We should be recording realistically with what we have, God has given us, 70-80 million tourists coming to our country. But that's the trajectory we're going to. When people say we want to hit 2 million mark.
Vera Albeta, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Vera, for that. The Rakanithi governor, that is Muthomi Njuki, has called on the county government in the country to initiate alternative methods of revenue collection in a bid to boost the county's economic growth. Njuki said this during his state address, where he indicated that the total revenue for collection has increased from 79 million to 250 million shillings for the term he has served in office, and aims to attain the 350 million shillings mark in order, or rather towards the end of the 2023-2024 financial year. He also said that he was in the process of upgrading some level 3 hospitals in an effort to decongest queues at level 5 hospital.
We have seen remarkable growth in revenue, also own source revenue, from 79 million 6 years ago. We are now at almost 300 million, and we expect this financial year, our target is 350. We have seen significant growth, and this is amazing growth bearing in mind and considering that we have not increased any levies in this county. We have not tasked the Mamamboga more, we have not tasked the people more. What has happened is that we have increased the efficiency in collection by automating revenue collection and also ensuring that we have better supervision by having surveillance using digital technology, having CCTV or cameras in every access point, and of course close supervision by our teams. At a time like now when the country is going through an economic hardship, sometimes disbursement gets late like now, and when we have facility improvement fund, money that is generated in the hospitals, it is taken back and used in the same hospitals. We are able to have.
Now, 4 thugs have been arrested this morning by police officers in Lodwar town after they robbed a businessman about 300,000 Kenya shillings. According to Turkana Central Sub-County Police Commander Samuel Kiptenui, the 4 were arrested early today after robbing Gabriel Maraga 300,000 Kenya shillings. It is alleged that those thugs came from Nairobi with an aim of robbing business in Lodwar, but their plans failed. The four are currently detained in the police station while the investigations continue.
Nika suspect haraka sana hii gari yenye iko nyuma yangu yenye na reverse ndio imenipora. Nikaifuata nikipiga simu kwa ofisi ya polisi kwa sababu kuna mapolisi wengi tunajuana nao. Nikawapigia simu nikasema mimi nimeporwa na gari yenye imenipora pesa, ninaifuata. Mkimbie mniokoe ama mpige simu pale mbele kwa roadblock wafunge hiyo gari isipite.
4 suspects were arrested. Stephen Otieno Kamere, who is age 27 years. Eric Wafula Odiambo, age 21 years. Third, Raval Ndeta Otieno, 32 years. Emmanuel Chuma Okot, who is a driver, who was a driver of the suspected vehicle which were used, was arrested. One suspect is at large by the name Koskei, who escaped, and the officers are on hot pursuit, and we know we are going to nab him. So the suspects already are in our custody, and we want to probe or to investigate further to know. These suspects are claiming to have come from Nairobi yesterday, which we are doubting. They must have some connection within this town.
Quite interesting that someone would leave Nairobi to go with a mission to conduct theft in Lodwar. You're watching The Daily Report. It is exactly 30 minutes past the hour. We are taking a short break. When we come back, we have more on the other side, including a special edition of the People's Court tonight. Do stay with us.
Ibu Maybets, base ya
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you?
Welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report. Time now to make sense of the sense. The Cabinet Secretary of Trade, Investment and Industry has urged key stakeholders in the industry to be role models of good standards. Speaking to members of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, leaders commended Kenya's efforts in positioning itself in the global markets.
In a move aimed to spearhead a global revolution in quality standards and innovation, the Cabinet Secretary of Investments, Trade and Industry, Rebecca Miano, has encouraged the Kenya Bureau of Standards to uphold the high standards of integrity and good governance.
I want to encourage you today and call upon you to be the role model of all standards. Standards of dedication, standards of honesty, standards of teamwork, standards of excellence, standards of behavior. It is possible to enjoy your career and to work in your career without having a date on Kiambu Road.
Peter Munyiri, the outgoing National Standards Council chairman, asserted that KEBS is more than a regulatory body as it represents trust and excellence.
Because if KEBS slept on their job and they allowed all manner of toxic things to pass through the borders and the port, even the army could not defend the institution.
According to S. Tangari, KEBS managing director, said that the Bureau's efforts in setting standards have been instrumental in positioning Kenya as a competitive player in the global marketplace.
This step is crucial to ensuring that our standards and testing facilities are at the forefront of global advancements, fostering innovation and enhancing the competitiveness of our industries.
Natasha Wairimu, TV47.
Thank you, Natasha, for that. Companies have been urged to ensure compliance to environmental, social and governance guidelines to be listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, that is the NSE, while confirming WPP Scan Group's entry into the club of listed Kenyan companies. The NSE now says compliance with the released guidelines by the board about 2 years ago will ensure competitiveness while opening up businesses to more investors. These as the Insurance Regulatory Authority reports a 10.4% increase in gross written premiums. Details of these and others in our Business News Roundup.
November 2021, the NSE, in partnership with the Global Reporting Initiative, released guidelines for listed companies to follow in managing ESG issues in a bid to have qualitative guidelines for listings. The Securities Exchange says the compliance to such guidelines is pushing up investor interest, and failure of adherence could have listed companies facing dire consequences.
When it comes to taxes, for example, we are very clear that we have to be tax compliant in every single sense. When it comes to every other compliance, ethics, for example, all employees in this organization complete an ethics and compliance training. And they have to complete it and confirm they understand it. And we run through the organization training in terms of what is ethics, what is compliance, what does it mean, and what does it look like in your day-to-day work.
Meanwhile, insurance industry gross written premium stood at 100 billion Kenyan shillings as at the end of the second quarter of 2023, representing an increase of 10.4% from 163 billion Kenyan shillings at the same time last year. Long-term insurance business premiums amounted to 74.89 billion shillings, accounting for 41.6%. Finally, Equity Bank Kenya has been recognized as the top global performer by the World Bank for 2023 for its financial climate reporting. Equity Bank reported the highest number of transactions for climate-related financing among the 258 participating financial institutions globally. Hibak Said for TV47.
Thank you, Hibak, for that. Chaos erupted in Chelal Tea Factory, Kericho County, during tea farmers' 58th annual general meeting held in Chelal Tea Factory in Buret constituency. The chaos erupted following questions raised by tea farmers to the board members headed by Chairman Theophilus Mibei as why the two companies Chelal Tea Factory and Litain Tea Factory were joined. In his defense, the board chairman said the two factories had incorporated separately but jointly owned by the same shareholders, and it has yielded burning issues among the farmers supplying tea leaves to the two factories. The AGM adjourned prematurely, and the suppliers of tea leaves left unsatisfactory following the annual general meeting's interruption caused by the controversial topic to separate the two factories in the region.
The meeting started well. It went on well, but there is a very contentious issue that was petitioned by the shareholders to come onto the agenda. And the issue is the issue of separation of the two factories, where the two are actually incorporated separately, but they are jointly owned by the same set of shareholders. It was actually put up by shareholders of Litain Tea Factory Company Limited. Now, that issue has been actually boiling over the years. The diversity of views. The people who supply their green leaf to Litain Factory, our Litain plant, actually would not want to hear of the separation of the two factories. Whereas, on the other hand, the farmers who are supplying our Chelal factory have always contended that their plant need to be separated from the mother factory.
The reason being that our Chelal Tea Factory produces high quality tea than Litain Tea Factory. Yes. And our request to the Tea Board of Kenya to provide us with immediate separation of the two factories.
Welcome back. Let's get sporty. Githurai All-Stars have been crowned as the champions of the first edition of the Sakaja Super Cup after defeating Kawasaki 5-4 in the penalties after a 1-1 draw in the regular time in a match played at the Police Circle Stadium. The first half of the match witnessed a tight affair as both sides' efforts to break the deadlock failed, but Githurai opened the scoring immediately after the break through a penalty. However, as the match seemed to be in favor of the Githurai-based side, Kawasaki restored parity after converting from a corner kick. But it was in the favor of Githurai in the penalties as they bagged up the 3 million Kenya shillings prize money, becoming the champions of the first edition.
I'm very happy that we've won to this stage. We started a few months ago, 340 teams. Now we've narrowed down to the finals. So many young people have been part of this journey. A few weeks ago, I had gone to look at Toy Primary Kitchen. I found kids playing with these jerseys. It's a seed that we've planted, and we are so grateful to the Federation for all the support. And now it's to see who carries it. And just the convening power and unifying power of sports. It's amazing. Kawasaki would never have met Githurai. But as a city, we're seeing people from all across. We had Kibagare playing with the other side of Kayole, you know, and it's just a beautiful thing. We want to keep doing it now in other disciplines throughout the year to keep our young people busy and engaged, and so that we can also scout talent, you know. And I'm glad we have the president of the federation. I'm sure his scouts can also see one young man who would never have been found from Huruma or from Githurai or wherever it is.
So first is to say to the governor that it's a first edition, and the first edition normally is not the best. So what you're seeing today is not the best. Can you imagine next year if Joe Kadenge is ready and Githurai that you've seen there can come with their buses and fill it? Football at the grassroots, at the bottom level, is where we are seeing the highest interest.
Ashley Shanda Ongonga has secured a quarter place to represent Kenya from January 19th to February 1st next year. The 16-year-old qualified based on her International Ski Federation FIS ranking of the Women's Youth Olympic Games quarter allocation lists as of 18th December 2023. Ashley Shanda will make history as the first African and Kenyan female cross-country skier to qualify for the Winter Youth Olympic Games. Born in Italy and holding dual Kenyan and Italian citizenship, Ashley chose to represent Kenya internationally. Ashley's achievements include multiple victories in cross-country ski titles, regional and national championships, and notable participation in international ski competitions.
First Olympic dream started when I was like 6. And because I always would like to go in Olympics game, and I always like to represent in Kenya. And I always work for this dream. And
she loves what she's doing. And we are also very proud of her decision to choose Kenya. You know, when she was young, she was saying, one day I hope to represent Kenya and fly high the flag of Kenya. And this is almost happening. And we feel happy for her because it's like she's living her dream. And really the best thing we can do is just to encourage her, give her all the support she needs. And we really feel honored that NOC has welcomed her into, this beautiful family.
It is exactly 43 minutes past the hour. You're watching the Daily Report. With the news done, the People's Court is up next. And as we had earlier informed you, it is quite different tonight. Victor Muyakane and Linda Alela will be joining me on set as we deliver to you the last show of the year 2023, even as you look forward to the year 2024. Much more lies ahead. Do stay with us.
Unajua hiyo mbao inaweza kushikia kashamba. Predict mechi 15 usana chance ya kuwa millionaire. Cheza Maybet wa bebe 2 million jackpot. Ni mbao tu, ni rahisi, hiyo design. Maybet, home of winners. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Bet responsibly. BCLB number 000578.
We take pride in 2023 as you allowed us to bring to you experts that educated you on matters physical, mental, and spiritual health.
That is
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari haiishi kwa kuchotwa. Wakati mwingi natangamana na wanafunzi madarasani, sio kama mwalimu bali kama nahodha kwenye kipindi cha tasnia ya elimu. Na iwapo utanikosa madarasani, basi utanipata nyanjani nikisaka habari zenye usawa, ufasaha na ukweli. Na iwapo utanikosa nyanjani, bila shaka utanipata studioni hapa nikisoma habari na kuendesha mijadala mikomavu. Mimi ni Andrin Kilemi, mpenzi wa lugha ya Kiswahili na elimu kwa jumla.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets To the streets, to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Kutoka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana.
Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai.
John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent, pay our bills.
When I was growing up, water was a problem where I was born and bred. We wake up at 3 to go and look for water.
Magavana.
Must be.
It is is exactly 9:51 o'clock right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. We thank you so much for staying with the Daily Report. We did tell you that we have quite a different People's Court program tonight, and you'll remember every Tuesday we bring to you topics and we host guests and we interrogate matters that affect the people. Right, Linda?
Yes. And today we are the people and we are the court. And so, like he said,
court is in session.
Yes, court is in session, so the jury will decide.
Absolutely.
But then again, it's all about Christmas, so we are going to make good decisions without doubt.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And I think, like what my colleagues have said, this year and in this particular episode, we want to do something different.
Right.
We want to look at the year that was, and we want to look at how this show, The People's Court, which is your show, how we've been able to cover the big issues of our time.
Right.
And we've picked 3 issues, and each person is going to tackle one of them. And we'll take you a little bit down memory lane a few months ago or a few weeks ago to see just how we covered that and maybe cast ahead a little better.
Even better, we are just going to look at some of the progress that
Absolutely.
we have witnessed over these things that we talked about. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
we had spoken about health when, the government was just coming in a year or months into it.
Yeah.
We really want to know whether there's something significant that is playing out. And I know
Right.
this has been talked about left, right, and center. But what about a reminder? I think it would be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
A reminder would be great.
Okay.
Yes.
Then when I say infrastructural planning, basically it's about the drainage systems that we are having. Number 2, we have frameworks about disaster management that have been developed in the past, including the Hyogo framework, which was focusing on preparedness. We had a framework that was focusing on response matters. But now what we are looking at and what we need to do so that we don't find ourselves in the same space of such manner of effects is then how do we ensure that our community members are resilient? And by being resilient, then I would tell you that we have had.
So is that something that's big? And I think that's a really good snippet right there. We're talking about resilience, and we're talking about particularly resilience around the impact of climate change in our country, in our societies. And we'll get back to that in a moment. But Linda, I understand this year was quite significant in terms of health.
Yeah.
And health is something we would like to focus on. You actually attended the devolution conference.
Yes, Kericho County.
Which was in Kericho County.
Afya Mashinani.
Afya Mashinani.
What the government
It was the launch of
intends to do.
Afya Mashinani.
It was a launch, but then again, it just came in like a month or, some few months right after we got, this medics at the level. I wouldn't want to call them medics.
Right.
But
the
they speak
CHVs,
about the CHVs,
Yes.
at the level of, different counties,
Yes,
different
100,000,
places, and they've been doing some of these things as they were saying. And I mean, we also had some of them on set.
Right.
And they were speaking about how they've been trying their level best with the little knowledge that they have to just enlighten the masses and, the people down on ground in relation to just what they need to do, the basics of health.
Yes.
Something as simple as taking your temperature, something as simple as knowing your condition and knowing how you can manage it at that level, something as simple as getting to know your neighbor, is he well, are they well, and all that. So for the very first time, the government then gets to appreciate and recognize them, and they go ahead to actually even accord them kits that would help them, do some of these activities that we're giving back to society in a better capacity. But even better is that at least they get some stipends of sorts just to motivate them.
Motivate them,
those are some of the key highlights that actually played out this year, but of importance, the bill and all that. Let's listen into what we have captured in relation to health before, and then we come and see just how we have progressed and what we look forward to, as Victor says.
Right.
Their feel on ground as to just the strides that we have made and whether they are convinced that the government is committed to us making sure that the country then attains universal health coverage. I know there's a lot of activity that has played out, is bound to play out until the 19th of this month, but just allow us to focus much on the question of digitization, which was the main theme of today. And with me in studio, our mini studio, and seated right next to me is the CEO of SASA, Dr. Who is Francis Osiemo. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us.
Thank you.
Basically also a friend of TV47.
Yeah.
And right next to him is Gerishon Gashoki, the lead business, that is development of Health X. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us as well this evening.
Thank you.
Yes, and the two gentlemen who are staunch friends of the show must agree, a representative of the Kenya Union of Clinical Nurses, that is. Thank you so much as well for creating time to be with us. That is the chairperson. None other than Peterson Washira. Thank you so much for creating time, as well as Gibore. Gibore is also a household name when it comes to this show. George Gibore is the General Secretary of the same entity. Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time. Someone was asking me what happened to gender balance. They need not to worry, because Unsari on the other end with the audience, has a representative. At least we create a balance in relation to that aspect of gender. But gentlemen, we come straight to either of you and, to briefly tell us why we're here. That is in Kericho County. That is the Mashujaa Day or the Mashujaa Conference that is on universal health coverage. But yes, and the two gentlemen who are staunch friends of the show must agree, a representative of the Kenya Union of Clinical Nurses, that is. Thank you so much as well for creating time to be with us. That is the chairperson. None other than Peterson Washira. Thank you so much for creating time, as well as Gibore. Gibore is also a household name when it comes to this show. George Gibore is the General Secretary of the same entity. Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time. Someone was asking me what happened to gender balance. They need not to worry, because Unsari on the other end with the audience, has a representative. At least we create a balance in relation to that aspect of gender. But gentlemen, we come straight to either of you and, to briefly tell us why we're here. That is in Kericho County. That is the Mashujaa Day or the Mashujaa Conference that is on universal health coverage. But beyond that, the 4 days and what they culminate to, and the question of universal health coverage and the attainance of the same. And I think I always say the person who's next to the host then begins. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Linda. First, we are here to celebrate Mashujaas of the healthcare sector. So everybody is a Shujaa, and we all know that the healthcare industry is half private, half is government.
Yeah.
So everybody is a Kenyan, and we're seeking healthcare in different ways. And for the first time, we've seen the government embrace private practice to participate in such events. And this is a good, really a good show towards attaining universal health coverage. And the fact that we've attempted this several times, I think this is the third time, third attempt to achieve universal health coverage. I think this time they have a better blueprint. The government has done a lot on the ground, has engaged stakeholders, not just within government, within the private sector, within other organizations that support the government, including unions and associations that are involved in the healthcare space. And that, per se, brings in a goodwill, it shows a goodwill. And I think this time we'll be able to achieve universal health coverage.
All right. Do you agree with what it is that he says, that perhaps this would be that one shot that will give us a sure deal in terms of attaining universal health coverage?
Yes, I think so. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, 100%.
Yes, I think so.
You can just have the mic up a bit.
Yes. So I think so that this is an important opportunity, and I can see, and everyone can see actually across the country, that there is concerted effort. There is a lot of effort and a lot of heavy weather has been made to make sure that we achieve the universal health coverage from the very top in leadership. The conversation has been, how do we make sure that healthcare is accessed from the villages, from our homes, from everybody's person, everybody's place of where they stay. So I believe that with whatever the government is launching, the universal health coverage, the way they have launched it this time, there has been some quite a number of false starts. I think this is now the magic start where we are going to have universal health coverage, especially because going to the topic that you have for today, there is a lot of effort to digitize the delivery of healthcare.
Okay.
You all remember what happened when there was digitization of the financial services. There was a very big paradigm shift when we introduced e-money. And here I'm talking about M-Pesa, which ended up being one of the biggest innovation to come out of Kenya, and it has gone all over the world. So I believe also whatever we are doing here with the community health promoters, with the universal health care, with the digitization of the universal health care, the way it is being rolled out now, we can be the trade setter for Africa, we can be the trade setter for the world. So I yield back.
All right. Yes. Into that. Okay, well, gentlemen, allow us to take a quick short break. And then we come back, also get to know who is on the audience side. And then shortly as well, get a view of the other gentlemen in relation.
All right, there was also something about cancer. We had a session on cancer. I don't know whether Mr. Director has that.
Oh, I'm sure he has. This is also part of the health coverage that we had this year.
Yes.
And cancer is one of the top killers in Africa, and it's one of the top killers in Kenya. And I think one of the things that really came out of that discussion was just how widespread it is, and just how few people actually know to go and get tested.
You know?
And it is the third leading cause of death after infectious and cardiovascular diseases.
And we're just from that month of cancer. And I mean, basically, we keep asking ourselves, just what will it take for us to, suddenly equip the country to the level where we can manage this? You remember Speranza was here, literally complaining and saying that there's been a lot of difficulty in just how they are treated.
Absolutely.
And you can almost tell that, the country is longing for a time where we won't have to send our patients to India.
Or go broke, because they say every Kenyan, or most Kenyans, are one disease away from poverty.
That's the most.
But there was something interesting, something encouraging that came out of that. Dr. Dulcie Wanda, who was one of our guests, she's an oncologist, and she said, listen, there's hope. Things are much better than they used to be, and it was quite encouraging.
And even a chit-chat with her after the show. Sometimes, the show is quite limited. We don't get a chance to speak about everything and anything, but we keep saying that it's important that we highlight what it is that we can. The chit-chats out there, you actually, get that intense conversation with her. And, despite all these difficulties, you actually get to acknowledge that indeed we have done so much. There are a lot of strides that we have made. And certainly there is that element of hope. So before the director gets to play that clip on cancer and basically about that, we have it. All right, let's have it briefly.
But I wish they know what I undergo through, because like I got my back problem, I have nerves problem, calcium so low always, but I thank God I try to manage them through the help of the doctors.
All right, so of course the medication and all that, and perhaps this could be a myth we would want to understand. Sometimes you're told that now you have to lose your hair because of the chemo and the radio and all that. How was it?
I did all that.
Yeah.
I lost my hair and I added over 20 kilograms.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 110 after my chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm trying to cut it down. We are so lucky as cancer patients, only that some don't know. We have Skuma Fit Dance, Kenya, which do it for free to cancer patients and caregivers. Then we have Kirere Health. We usually go for hike. Yeah.
All right, and you just get to share experiences and all that.
In fact, I long for the days we go for the hikes. And I long for the days we go for that in dance. I'm not a good dancer, but I try.
Yeah. In these moments, you just forget about your troubles for a moment.
I forget everything. I like the retreat, the retreats we go. Yeah, the keep me going. Yeah.
What does it take to engage people and perhaps get them to that point of, knowing that in existence are such activities so that at least they can get themselves, back to life for a moment? Because then we say if diagnosis then would actually ring a bell of death, then it means there has to be something that someone does to get them back to life.
We find out so many people, cancer puts them down. So we thought, what can we do? That's why Kilele came up with this thing of, there's a Kilele challenge. Kilele challenge, it consists of cancer survivors, cancer patients, and caregivers.
And it's across the country?
Yeah, we have people in Mombasa. We want we have even people internationally, like Kilele members internationally. Right. We've been doing mount hikings. We've been doing, like I told you before, earlier, that now we've come up with something called the psychosocial support in the community, whereby we give psychosocial support to cancer patients, to their families. We don't charge. It's free of charge. Some of us benefited. We were taken through class by Amani Counseling Center. We were taught about counseling, how to handle cancer patients. So, whereby in that thing, we have the cancer patients themselves and survivors plus caregivers. That's how we soldier on. Another thing, whereby we also do, apart from the psychosocial support, we also do awareness. Whereby we find out...
Just what exactly is this word awareness? Perhaps maybe it would be important for us to understand.
Awareness means whereby we teach people, we enlighten communities about this cancer thing. Because like I said earlier, when some family hears about cancer, this is stigma, it's just death. Now we want to remove that thing in people's mind, whereby if you have a family member who's diagnosed with cancer, there's a way, there's hope. And that's why we have people who go for hikes, people who go for the skooma dances, to prove that there's life beyond cancer. So if you're diagnosed with cancer, do your diagnosis, do your treatment well. After the treatment, there's still life to go on. So don't give up once you're diagnosed with cancer. So you say, let's move on. Let's keep the fire burning. Because you need life after that. You have a family to take care of.
There are several, causes of cancer, and I think also the food specialist has highlighted a couple of them. Lifestyle is a concern. Genetical predisposition as well, is one of the things that, would cause cancer. And most of the times, actually, before they even take the tests, they perhaps ask you, in your family, is there a case? Is there a history of case of cancer and all that? Did you get yourself to a point where you kept on asking yourself, or perhaps within your family, someone who has cancer or had cancer?
I've not had before, but after that, when my uncle got prostate cancer, after I've been diagnosed, after I've gone through treatment.
All right.
But if you are told you have cancer, you think a lot, and you start asking why you? Yeah, but all in all, cancer it's a disease, and anybody, we have all cancer cells. Everybody has cancer cells. Only that we don't know, and we pray God that it doesn't occur to anybody. Yeah.
Does it not worry you? And I'm sorry I'm asking this. Sometimes you think, oh well, mom had cancer, so chances are here. Is this? And I am looking forward to get a reminder of what Dr. Wanda was telling us then. Absolutely. I know food is key in relation to all this. And Kenyans are a bit, worried about the tough economic times.
Right.
I mean, you're going to tell them that food is the best medicine, yet they cannot afford 3 meals a day.
I'll tell you something. It was in Meru when I did a story called The Cancer Village.
Yes.
And sadly, all those, all my sources passed away shortly afterwards.
Oh my, hold on.
I remember him mentioning that.
And
a very special village.
A very special village.
Tell us more about that,
please. Village in Meru County, in Igembe South.
Right.
In Meru County. It has been christened Cancer Village.
Yes.
And it was quite a sad situation where after every homestead there was a person nursing cancer, different types of cancer.
In one village?
In one village. That story did it in 2019. Sadly, everyone that I interviewed passed away. They succumbed to the disease, and it brought about the issues surrounding especially research. We did engage Cambry at the time, and they alluded that in the 50s, there is a meteorite that fell. in one of the hills, and so the water that sprang out could have been the leading cause.
Oh, with radiation.
Yeah, radiation and all that. But then it goes to speak about, research. And earlier, that story came just about after the death of Dr. Laboso, the former governor of Bomet, where Anyang' Nyong'o, the governor of Kisumu, said when he went to California in the U.S. during his treatment, because he said most of them, even him, are in remission. In the U.S., there is a facility where there is cancer research for everything, because, the only...
All the different kinds of cancer.
The organs that don't get cancer is, I think, the teeth and nails.
Goodness.
I think
you can get cancer anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
And so he said there was those researching cancer of the tongue, cancer of the skin. Specialization of all types of cancer. And I was at an event where, last week when we were discussing matters health financing, and there came an interesting topic where it was discussed and, suggested that perhaps counties in Kenya, the 47 counties, could establish and say we have 47 cancer
specialized centers.
Yes.
That perhaps would be able to cure, so that if you're in Nairobi, if you have, say, different type of cancer, you can access it in Mombasa. Then those in Nairobi, they're specifying or focusing on.
Oh, brilliant!
So it is quite an issue.
Quite indeed.
We hope that the research. But let's listen to what Dr.
Oh yes.
Had to say.
And this is what Dr. Dulcie Wanda had to say. Let us know, what's the real deal?
So pretty much how vaccination works, we have seen a very direct correlation between certain strains of HPV virus to cancer of the cervix. And that direct correlation is what we're trying to address. So the vaccines, depending on the type that's available, is actually targeting the strains that have been highly related to cervical cancer, which would explain why the target population is the females. We look at the West, they don't have the statistics we have for cervical cancer. It's actually quite scary to find out that there is a cancer that we can prevent, and mothers and fathers are not allowing their children to get the vaccine. Mothers and fathers are refusing to protect their children from cancer. That is really, really sad, because if you get to have an opportunity to speak with someone who has cervical cancer, then it's a disease that is really devastating and life-changing for most of the patients. So the vaccination is available. We actually appeal to parents. You can save your daughter. You can make sure she does not get cancer of the cervix by giving her an opportunity to get the vaccination. The vaccination has been confirmed to be safe. There are myths that are around, just like anything new that came around. Even COVID had its myths. However, it is really important to ensure that our girls are vaccinated, because we can prevent them from having cancer of the cervix, and that would really work out right.
Dr. Wanda.
That's doable. Okay. So it would be nice to see many people take it up so that we can reduce the statistics. And I think the conversation they mentioned involving the caregivers and involving the survivors of cancer.
Seeing things getting better as a result of that. I'm afraid we may not have enough time for that. If you could squeeze that in, that would be brilliant. But I'd like you to prepare a message from your heart to the people of Kenya. That's your camera right there. If you can squeeze a little bit about the research, that would be brilliant. But talk to Kenyans. Give them something they can take away out of this conversation this evening. There's your camera.
All right. So yes, researchers are talking to each other, and we even had a meeting of the researchers in Africa to kind of see how can we push research and ensure that we have data that is our data. Remember, most of the data for even the medication is from the West. So we want to make sure we're having clinical trials, we want to make sure we have research, we want to find out, are there unique features about Africa that is making us see cancers in younger people than the West? So that is a conversation that is going on. But my take-home message is, cancer is not a death sentence. The earlier we get to know that you have cancer, the more we can do, and the higher the chances of you having total cure. Remember, cancer is not painful. You do not have to wait to have pain. You need to know what is your normal. If it is your breast, every month, examine your breast on the 10th day after your menses. Get to know, is there a lump? Is there a change? If you notice your stool, there is blood in it, do not ignore just because there is no pain. There are many oncologists currently. Oncologists are available. If you have a question pertaining to thinking, could I have cancer? It is perfectly okay to book an appointment to see an oncologist. They would guide the process of what screening should be done for you. If you've had history of cancer in your family, then that's a risk factor. About 10 to 15% of cancers can be familial. Then your screening modalities will be different from the general population. So cancer is not a death sentence. Treatment is available, diagnosis is available. We could do better. We are trying our best, and we hope to get to a place where the cancer treatment is at the top.
Cancer is not a death sentence, like Dr. Harry says, and so are many other health conditions in the country.
Right.
And what we are looking forward to as a people, and what it is that the government is promising right now, is that we hope that we get to that level where it will be about preventive care. Curative would perhaps be the last of our options, How do we get to diagnose some of these conditions at a very early stage? And during the Kericho session and the Mashujaa conference, there was that declaration that came out of it. Of course, I'd call it the Kericho Declaration. That spoke to a raft of issues in relation to the question of health. Just how do we make sure that, first of all, digitization stood out for me.
Of records.
The records, that is very, very important. That is one of the key things that we'd say, if we get it right 101%, and there was a case study from, I think, it should have been, is it Mlolongo, or there's a hospital, Kitengela, that said that all their systems are fully digitized. They were trying to showcase just how this is helpful and is happening and is very important. So that is one of the key things that actually stood out. The fact that we can get AFIA at the lowest of levels. They speak level 1 of hospitals and going all the way up. And that Kenyans would be able to access this. And I think the president alluded to that the other time when he had a session with the journalists, saying that everyone should be enrolled to a certain insurance session of the government, and in the event that you do not have money that the government will pay for you, this is to guarantee you health.
But again, that means funds from the government. The government needs, and you see the Primary Healthcare Act 2023, the Digital Healthcare Act,
the Social
Improvement Financing Act 2023, and the Social Health Insurance Act of 2023 are perhaps the avenues that not perhaps actually they are the avenues
that they're targeting
to. The government intends to do, or rather to follow. However, that has faced a stumbling block.
We're going to see a lot of cases. By the way, that is also one thing that we're expecting to see. A lot of cases.
So is that something? I think a lot of Kenyans would like to know. Is this something we need to look forward to when it comes to 2024? When it comes to health, if you could highlight a few, what are these things that people should look out for when it comes to health? Major advancements, major news that will be able to affect how Kenyans access health.
The fact that you can access health, at the lowest of levels, whether you have money or not, to me is a plus. And because the government, guarantees this, while it might face lots of stumbling blocks, we can only hope that, they'll find the numerous mechanisms, try and exhaust all the mechanisms to make sure that every other Kenyan has access to health. That preventive aspect of health is equally very important. Like our brothers, in superpower countries do, they will always go for tests, that annual test, monthly test, weekly test of your entire system, just to find out that, if you're well, and to arrest any condition that is likely to crop up at that very early stage. I think, to me, that is a very, very important thing. That aspect of addressing the go-slows. We do not want to experience the go-slows where now, of course, doctors are on strike and you cannot access health and all that. If you're going to interact with the CHVs at that level of the machinery, as we always say, or as we say, they'll be helpful to ensuring that what it is that Dr. Wanda says. You are having a lump and you want to ignore it. Such cases will perhaps, be arrested at a very early stage. So I think we are on the right track, I would say, and health gets the largest chunk when it comes to financing in the country.
Right, and as they say, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
It's a wealthy
nation.
Yeah.
Right. And also this year we did address the issue of insecurity and security. You've seen what has happened, especially at the coast, the attacks that were happening, and that there have been quite some different definitions.
In the Rift Valley as well.
The Rift Valley. We did see the deployment of the KDF. Also the alerts that have been issued, the security advisories by various embassies, especially the US, has been very keen on that. And we had a session. Let's first listen into somewhat of the our panelists back then had to say a few weeks ago. The issues that surround the deaths that come in and dealing with people. I wonder what your guest has to say regarding the balance that you have to do with security organizations, the operations, and dealing with the victims and of course the families. Over to you, Victor.
Oh yeah, thank you, George, and a very enlightening opener right there from your guest. Good people, we are joined by Stella Oyagi, who's actually a lawyer who's got quite a few areas of focus, including SGBV, human rights, international human rights, and so much more. Actually, you wear quite a number of hats. So welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right off the bat, there's a question that George asked, but before that, would you give us your view on the event that happened this morning in Baringo, as well as the other attacks that have been happening across the country?
It's unfortunate that, first of all, it's the children who had to experience this firsthand. I can imagine the trauma that is left on the children. Hearing gunshots for like a whole hour. This is not normal in any given circumstance. And yet it happened where it's considered to be the safest place in a JSU camp.
That's right.
And how did the attack happen? They were not aware. Before they rescued the children, it was unfortunate. And I know this has happened in various parts of the country for long. Unfortunately, it's the vulnerable that suffer the most. The children, the women, and the young girls. Because you see, like, for schools have to be closed whenever these attacks happen. Kids miss school because you're not sure when you go, will you get back home, will you reach school safely? And the government has not really put in place proper mechanisms to protect the vulnerable in our society. So that is a gap in itself that needs to be addressed urgently. Because kids from these particular areas where there's a lot of conflict are the ones who miss out. They miss out on the basics because there's poor infrastructure.
Yeah, Victor, there is a lot that came even because you also had Byron Ochieng, who is a former Special Forces officer. The Special Force, of course, is actually the elite organ or the branch of the Kenya Defence Forces. And he did speak about, harnessing and being able to deal or mitigate with situations when they happen. Let's listen into what Byron had to tell us back.
Matters that are going to be put in place to, fight wars, fight banditry for that matter. Strategy has some main components, that the who, what, how. I feel in the grand scheme of things that there's got to be very serious conversations around the who, what, how in terms of the strategy. So businessmen would call the strategic misintents that are generating those negative results or negative transfer. So good intellect, bad place. We were discussing offset, and what I've had to say, on platforms such as this, is that there's quite a lot of elements of psychological research. There's a lot of research findings that have been done. There's a lot of studies that have been done by scholars that have found out that beyond the extension of the muzzle of the gun, the soft approaches that got to meet, at some point in time, or the weaving together of the soft and the hard approaches in order to actually uproot the root causes of this problem. So when I hear people saying, we are going to go into this enclave and finish this problem once and for all, what are you finishing? They may be lacking in imagination at some point in time where the causal factors are left with the band-aids on them. So you finished the problem in terms of just addressing the what you see manifest in terms.
Indeed, and those were quite some nuggets that we received from Byron Ochieng, of course, just because we need, of course, to feel safe, to be able to live in a country where even we feel, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's even about perception. I remember how the Westgate, attack turned out, then followed the D2. Some of the issues that were actually after the first few days at the Westgate, they seemed not to have inspired confidence in Kenyans at the time. So at this point, despite the advisories that have been issued by the embassies, at least we seem to be seeing the government seems to be coming in, whereas we do not want that to happen, but at least it seems to be some good news. Perhaps Victor can take us to the next segment.
Well, just looking at the opinion polls that we have seen, and I know sometimes we'd want to rubbish some of these things based on how you look at it, but there's been a lot of appreciation as to what the currency is for, is security security is doing.
Oh, yeah. He's been ranked quite highly.
Yeah, he's been ranked quite highly. And I think that's basically twice in a row. That's basically what we would say you are alluding to, because then if we're going to experience some level of security, and I remember when they came in, or the current government came in, there was a lot of fear about, basically what is playing out. Wizi ya karibu, wizi ya karibu. But at least that has somehow been silenced. I certainly would say, looking at what the Constitution speaks of, to the principles of security or national security, you can almost tick all the boxes and the clauses in relation to that. And I remember the beginning of this year, we also had an interview with the president, and one of the key things that stood out was on the question of security. These killings and all that, what needs to be done.
Right.
I know there are a couple of things that we would highlight, but I'm certain that two, three things have been looked into, and we would say that maybe we are on course.
Right. I think maybe. The biggest thing I took away from security before we go to environment was you cannot secure a community before you put the community first. So all interventions should be from the bottom up, from the grassroots up. Engage the community first. What are their challenges? What are the nuances of the situation before you bring in a top-down approach? Because a lot of those strategies that are from the top down aren't cognizant of what's actually happening.
Talking about the Karamojong situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So those are just a few of the things we covered this year when it comes to matters health and matters security. All these shows, by the way, are on YouTube, on our platform TV47 News and TV47 Entertainment. There's a lot more that we could say. On the matters environment, we will not play the clips from those interviews, but I'd like to just orient us a little bit of what has happened this year, we're entirely out of time. But here's what happened this year. We've had at least two major conferences on matters security, climate change and environment. Two major conferences. One of them in Africa, the Africa Climate Summit, which happened in Nairobi, and then next we also had the COP28, which was happening in the Arab world. And this year has been particularly heavy when it comes to matters climate change, because we saw an extraordinary series of climate records broken. I'll tell you this. We've had 38 days this year, 2023. We had 38 days with global average temperatures of more than 1.5 degrees. We're talking about global warming, where the change in temperature of the globe, 1%, even 1 degree of temperature change, it means catastrophe across the world. Because it means the ice melts a little bit faster, and with the ice melting from the glaciers in the Arctic and Antarctic areas, the ice gets into the oceans, and the oceans, the levels rise and they wash over land, and then we have a big situation over there. It's really just a cascade of situations right there. This year we saw a rise in global temperature of 1.5 degrees. That's a huge thing. For 38 days straight, the temperature went up, and that's just one of the big things that happened this year. We also had unmanageable levels of air pollution. The WHO issued a concern about greatest risk around air pollution. We also had a disaster response emergency fund, and we also had quite a few agreements that were made in terms of climate change and funding around that and so on. Now, on that note, we want to take a bit of a breather. When we come back, we might have a little bit more for you when it comes to what the People's Court did in terms of coverage of environment and climate change.
Absolutely.
You people, man.
I thought...
Buda, Freebet imejipa. Wekelea uzito. Cheza NBA. Bet bila stake. Predict the outcome of 8 pre-selected games and win up to 100,000 shillings. Only at maybets.com.
I am Rehab Gadoshi, panelist, Beyond the Limit program. I am also a clinical psychologist and lecturer at Mount Kenya University, Nairobi campus. My message for you this Christmas is that as you travel to enjoy with your families and friends, be careful on the roads, be safe. This is El Nino period. Remember to take care as you drive, as you fly, as you go where you're going. It is good to know that we need you safe. So have a Merry Christmas. Give yourself a good time, enjoy love and togetherness as family. Have a Merry Christmas and a prosperous day.
Unajua hiyo mbao inaweza kushikia kashamba. Predict mechi 15 usana chance ya kuwa millionaire. Cheza Maybet wa bebe 2 million jackpot. Ni mbao tu, ni rahisi, hiyo design. Maybet, home of winners. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Bet responsibly. BCLB number 0000578.
About 80 million Kenya shillings having been 80 million US dollars having set to this. If you divide that times, if you multiply that by 156, you will get 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. If you divide in easy calculations 1.2 billion by 150 million seedlings is about 84 or 80 something Kenya shillings. Kenyans know that a tree seedling is supposed to be about 20, 30, 40, depending on what it is, and the size that we were seeing. So there is need for clarity, Mheshimiwa, to let people understand. People, when they understand why, okay, this money they keep hearing about, big money. There is also confusion. The day before yesterday, we were talking of 150 million. On TV stations, sometimes it is about 110 million. That confusion leaves Kenyans not knowing, hizo 40 million zimeenda wapi times 83. Zimehama na mtu or what has happened.
Yeah.
So this coordination is so important. Kenyans look at what you do more than what you say.
Absolutely.
And I know you are in the most important committee in this country, at the parliament. And I'm not casting aspersions. I am saying the need for good communication so that people can understand why, how, and what is going wrong, what is being done. You're now talking about 80 million US dollars. Kenyans are just coming from a Miti Mingi program, which was 2 billion US dollars. There are others who are questioning this app. Who is getting the money for carbon credits? Ninajijazia huko wengine you know, and these are things, and all this can be sorted by just good communication, continuous.
Right, that actually was our coverage of the National Tree Planting, or rather Tree Growing Day, and which was a first of its kind, I think, in recent history in Kenya, which was also quite significant as one of the ways that we need to tackle climate change, particularly when it comes to mitigation and resilience and then adaptation. One of the things that really struck me about this year is there's been a lot of potential in the things that have been put in place. I believe we'll be discussing this later on, just as we're wrapping up. But my bit would be around how we can leverage on the gains that we've made this year to be able to transform our next year. Yes.
All right. My bit would be that despite everything, and I agree, we say that charity begins at home. There's that need as well, and we appreciate the Africa Summit on the question of climate. that we need to come together as a people. We need to go beyond, our borders. We need to have this conversation across, because like they always say, just as it is when, your neighbor coughs, you'll certainly catch a cold. With matters, politics and all these things, I think the same thing then applies to the question of communication, of the environment and, just balancing the climate change and everything. And maybe that's the reason why this is perhaps one of the biggest conversations across the global fraternity. That what are the West doing? What is Africa doing? How are we coming together to make sure that we mitigate, all these cases of global warming and all that?
By the way, Linda, you raise an important subject. Guess what? This year, Kenya alone, we've lost close to 150 people to flooding.
Imagine.
And this is flooding that was predicted. That has a direct connection.
El Niño is coming.
And El Niño is coming. And this is a direct connection to climate change.
Yeah.
And we've lost people. Forget people, we've lost property, we've lost schools, we've lost infrastructure, roads, bridges, everything. There's a cost to climate change.
There is.
There's a cost to global warming. But it appears that countries like Kenya and communities that are disadvantaged, those are the ones that are actually suffering the most. So what you're saying about the funding and the responsibility, who's responsible for this, is critical, because first there's got to be some funding, and it's been agreed there's some funding for compensation for those who are taking the biggest brunt of climate change. And then on top of that, there's also the funds that are there to protect other communities from the impact of climate change. And then third, to also climate-proof these communities and climate-proof our operations. Can we operate more sustainably and all that? All that requires funding. So I hope, honestly, in 2024, things like planting trees, actually growing trees. We can shift from planting trees to growing trees.
Yeah, because it's one thing to plant.
One thing to plant, but another to grow. It means you make sure that this thing actually survives.
Did you plant a tree?
I did. I planted quite a lot of trees.
I intend to plant on my birthday.
Which is good.
On your birthday?
Oh, your birthday. Is it the 20th? 7. Happy birthday.
You're a Christmas baby, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And now,
that's my take.
And even in staying in line with matters environment conservation, TIFA, that the president seemed to have quite an opinion about on Sunday. On the flip side, actually ranked him. He scored very highly on 1, protecting forests. So on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being very bad, 3 being very good, he scored a 2.3 on protecting forests.
That's good.
2.3 supporting agriculture, and 2.2 combating pollution and contamination. So perhaps even such efforts are being seen by Kenyans, who say on that front we seem to be doing well. We can only hope that perhaps as you fly above the country, the landscape, as you travel, we have more green than brown.
I know, right?
And even make use of and be prepared for, to take advantages we have discussed in the People's Court before. So much so that we move from having disasters to opportunities.
That's right.
We don't have this water.
The water is just going
Indian Ocean.
But you see, it's absurd, that when it's flood moments, it's extreme. When it's drought moments, it's extreme. Then you ask yourself, what can we do to preserve this water during this rainy season?
Last year, it was
brilliant.
The excess drought, the severe drought. Then when they went to COP28 this year, it was
severe flooding.
Severe flooding.
But I like what you said, finding opportunity in the crisis. Calamity, opportunity in calamity.
All right, and so as we go out there to celebrate Christmas, I think let's just carry some element of hope within ourselves. I know that times have been tough for us as Kenyans, but we want to say let's just embrace the law of attraction. The Rotary family says that they have these 4-way tests, or a couple of things that they speak about, the 4 avenues of service, and they say anything that you speak, make sure that it is the truth. Make sure that it's fair to the concerned people. Make sure that it builds goodwill and perhaps better friendships, and of importance, make sure that it is beneficial to all concerned. That's basically what I am telling the people as we go out for Christmas. Let us embrace that. Let's make sure that we spread peace and that togetherness. Let's look forward to a better country next year. I mean, we cannot lose hope on the very same government that we installed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And absolutely, even as you look, forward to mingling and having interactions with our friends and families. Of course, we did see what the deaths this time round seem the victims of accidents. The
on the road.
Slightly.
Much better.
If we can just be very
maintain that.
Maintain that. We, arrive alive, and perhaps even as we look forward to 2024, we can have a proper perspective and even put our leaders more to account. Remember, we passed the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We did have a session on the Constitution.
Yes, the anniversary and Katiba at 10. It was a Katiba, yes.
10 years. Of course, we the people decided that we shall be able to hold this Constitution. So we hope that the citizenry will be able to wake up and, of course, hold leaders to account.
Right.
Absolutely. And for me, I just want to wish you, from all of us here actually,
a Merry Christmas.
We want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please remember, you only live once, and this is not for practice. Nobody knows about tomorrow. So you better make sure you're living right and you're living to the fullest.
That it is Jesus' birthday, not yours.
Absolutely. On that light